Welcome to the G360 Wealth Podcast. Today, we're excited to be joined by Juan Bendeck. Juan is a partner at FBT Gibbons. Juan is a trusted advisor that works with many of our clients in the trust and estates world, fiduciary probate, trust setup. Juan and his team have been fabulous to work with over the years. He's headquartered in our backyard here in Naples. And today we're going to be talking to Juan about the Sunshine State. So first of all, Juan, thank you for being here with us today. Hope it's nice and sunny there in Florida. It's almost July here, so I imagine it's quite warm down there.
Absolutely, Sam. It's a pleasure to be here, and the sun is out and proud in sunny Naples, Florida today.
So maybe we kick it off at the highest level. Today, we're going to be talking about state income tax and changing your domicile, which is a very popular thing to be doing here in Massachusetts, especially as many of our clients enter retirement and enter their snowbird phase. And I want to kick it off at the highest level, Juan. What's going on with this Floridization? It seems like everybody's moving to Florida, and it's not a question of are you going to Florida? It's which coast are you moving to? Can you tell me a little bit about what's going on down there?
Absolutely, Sam. I think there's two main factors at play. One is taxes and the other is lifestyle. So with taxes, Florida is a very favorable tax state. Florida has no state income tax. Also, Florida has no state level estate tax. There's several states that do have one, such as Massachusetts, as you know, New York, and others impose you don't just pay Uncle Sam an estate tax at death, but you also have to pay a state level estate tax. We also have very favorable laws regarding things such as trusts. We have favorable administration laws, and our laws allow you to do things with trusts that other states don't allow you to do. We also have very favorable laws when it comes to your primary residence, your homestead. We have very favorable property tax benefits with your homestead, which our legislature is currently debating to increase. So in addition to the benefits that you now get with property taxes, they may be increased further. That's in negotiation now. And there's other benefits to the principal Florida residents, such as asset protection benefits. And then obviously lifestyle. We have great weather here. It's year round. It does tend to get a little bit warmer and humid during the summers, but we have extremely mild winters, if you want to even call it a winter, in Florida. And it's very attractive, especially as our clients get on in their later years and don't want to endure a Massachusetts winter anymore or a Minnesota winter anymore.
Yeah, I think shoveling snow gets old pretty quick, especially when your buddies are out golfing or enjoying the beach. So maybe we could just jump right into the technicals of this, right? States like Massachusetts, who have imposed a so-called millionaires tax, have witnessed a lot of Massachusetts, Bostonians or departing to our neighbor up north, New Hampshire, and many down to Florida. With that being said, the Mass Department of Revenue is keen on making sure that if you leave the state, you actually leave the state. So maybe at the highest level, I'm a client of yours. I walk into your office and I said, Juan, I'm ready to rubber stamp this. I want to become a Florida resident. What do I need to do? What's that process look like? How do I make sure that I make that transition by the book?
So it's important to understand the difference between residence and domicile. So theoretically, you can have multiple residences, but you can only have one domicile. And in order to have a new domicile, you must abandon your prior domicile. So if you're a Massachusetts domicile right now, and you want to make Florida your domicile, you must abandon your Massachusetts domicile before you adopt a new Florida domicile. So from a big picture perspective, what you must do is change the center of your life, which includes social, financial, economic, from Massachusetts, abandon the ties there, and create new ties with the state of Florida. And there's several steps that we recommend that a client take to demonstrate that they've abandoned the prior domicile and adopted the new Florida domicile. So these items include things like, in Florida, you can file something called a declaration of domicile with the clerk of the circuit court of the Florida county where you now reside. So that's a piece of paper, a declaration that you sign under penalties of perjury that you have now created a domicile in Florida. You should always declare that Florida is your home in any oral and written communications. You register to vote in Florida. You obtain a Florida driver's license. You do things like this in order to demonstrate Florida is now my home and I have abandoned my prior domicile. You file your income tax returns in Florida. You file non-resident returns, or you tell your state that you've been filing income tax returns in, not to expect any further income tax returns for you. You obviously you own a home in Florida, or at least lease a home. If you own a home, you apply for our Florida homestead exemption. You do things such as update your estate planning documents to reflect Florida law. Your affiliations with religious and social organizations should be in Florida. And if you do maintain affiliations in your prior state, you either abandon those or you request that they be changed to non-resident status. All things such as credit cards, accounts, addresses all should be changed to Florida. You should at least have duplicate advisors in Florida. You should have a Florida doctor, a Florida attorney, a Florida accountant, Florida insurance agent. So you should have professionals that you establish relationships in Florida. Now you can still maintain your relationships with your prior advisors, especially if you've had a prior relationship with them, but you should definitely have a duplicate set of Florida advisors. You should transfer any important possessions, such as your family heirlooms, collections, things that are important to you. Those should be in Florida, not where you where you formerly resided. And in effect, what you should do is you should live your life in a way that it's clear that Florida is the predominant place in which you have extensive contacts and involvement.
So, I think when folks talk about changing their residency, one of the things you hear up here is, 6 months and a day. But that might not necessarily be true, right? I mean, it's more about a fact pattern, right? If you're, going down to Florida, but your doctor's at MGH and your dentist is in downtown Boston, and, you're living your life as such as you are, Bostonian, the contra state, the Mass DOR or, any state level organization, they're going to be looking at that, right? If they audit you and say, hey, Juan, you are not really a Florida resident. Is that true, Juan?
That's correct. What I've seen in my 20 plus years experience of counseling clients in domicile changes is where they get in trouble is just saying, all I have to do is spend less than 183 days, which is the test in many states, Massachusetts is one of their tests is if you spend 183 days or more in Massachusetts, you're a resident. So many clients get in trouble because they think all I have to do is spend less than 183 days in Massachusetts and I'm fine. But that's not what auditors will look at. So there are 5 factors in my experience where auditors have focused on, and those include a home comparison. So you've moved to Florida, so they will look. Let's just pretend that you've moved from Massachusetts to Florida. An auditor will examine what's your home in Massachusetts look like and what's your home in Florida look like. So if you have a 5,000 square foot mansion in Massachusetts and you bought a small condo in Florida, an auditor will look at that with skepticism that you've really changed your domicile to Florida, because remember, the goal is to abandon the Massachusetts domicile and adopt a new Florida domicile. So home comparison is one factor that they will look at. A second factor is business ties. They'll look at, where are you earning your money and how are you managing your work? So if you've moved to Florida, but you're still directing a company headquartered in Massachusetts, you still hold an active professional license there, or you're flying up there every week for meetings, a state, Massachusetts or any other state's going to argue you never really left. So they're going to look at where your income sources originate and how much time you're spending there originating that income. Another important factor is time patterns. Auditors will examine time patterns. So they're not only look at the simple counting of the 183 days, they'll also examine where are you spending holidays, where are you spending birthdays, anniversaries, and weekends. They'll look for a genuine shift in the rhythm of daily life toward Florida. So if you're less than 183 days in your former state, but you're there for every major holiday, you're there for every family gathering, you're there for many weekends, an auditor is going to be skeptical that you have abandoned your prior domicile and adopted a new domicile. Another factor, and I touched on this earlier, is your personal belongings. So moving all your furniture in your old home is one thing, but where are your most valued personal property? So they will look to see where the items that actually matter to you are located. So if you have a vintage car collection, you have your grandmother's china, where are those items? Are those items in your prior state, or have those items been moved to Florida? So those are things that they will take a look at. The fifth item is family connections. They will take a look at, where are this person's family? So they'll see, is your spouse in Florida? If you have minor children, where are the minor children? Where the location of very close family members creates a presumption about where you are. Now, that's not to mean that you moved to Florida with your spouse and your children are still in your state. That doesn't knock you out of the picture. But then we get back into the time pattern. How much time are you spending there? So those are 5 factors that auditors tend to focus on very closely. And then they will look at the secondary factors, and the secondary factors are some of the things that we touched on earlier, Sam. These are things like where you're maintaining your relationships. Where's your primary doctor? Where's your primary dentist? Where's your accountant located? Where you belong to religious organizations, social clubs, civic groups. Where do your credit card statements come to? Do they come to your Florida address or still to your Massachusetts assets? So those are the things that auditors, the secondary set of factors an auditor will take a look at. And it's important to understand that documentation is extremely important. Auditors will ask for your cell phone records. So, cell phone records are some of the most powerful pieces of evidence in a domicile audit. And they'll take a look to see where calls were made to confirm, your location on specific days. They'll also take a look at financial and travel records. They'll take a look at your credit card and debit card statements, and they will create a chronological trail of where you physically were on any given day. Also, not to be ignored are social media and digital footprints. They will check social media posts, check-ins, geotag pictures, event attendance. They'll take a look at all those things. And finally, they will take a look at utility bills and property records for properties that reveal usage patterns that they'll be able to tell where you were.
So what you're saying, Juan, is it's probably not the best idea 2 days before you sell your company to move to Florida and accept the wire down there, or sell a giant concentrated stock, right the day after. You need to be a bona fide Florida resident, Florida domicile. You need to really change your life, right? Like you're not flying back and forth, keeping all your advisors, keeping everybody, your doctor, dentist, everybody the same. This is a real move. And if you do get audited, the auditors are going to be looking for a real demonstrated fact pattern, and they will go so deep to check your Easy Pass, check your Facebook, right? They're going to go pretty deep. Has that been your experience?
That's been my experience. The people that get caught are unsuccessful in audit challenges, are people that don't take the steps that we've been discussing, that you just referenced. They're people that think, well, all I have to do is be out of the state for 183 days and get a Florida driver's license, and I'm home free. So if you are going to do something like sell a business, sell a stock, and you don't want that sale to be subject to state income tax, that involves careful planning well before the event occurs in order to avoid taxation in the home state. And if you'd like, I can give you a real world example of such a case.
Yeah, we'll love that.
Yeah, so there's a case. It happens to be a New York case, but I think it's very instructive of these facts. The case involved Mr. Campianello, who was an immigrant from Italy to New York in the early 1960s. He arrived to New York, got married, and built a family. Over many decades, he developed a very successful retail furniture business in New York. It eventually had holdings in Florida. In the 1980s, he purchased a vacation condo in Florida and started developing more businesses in Florida. And then the dispute with the New York Department of Revenue arose in the year 2007. Mr. Campianello claimed he had become a Florida resident and was a Florida resident in 2007. And he sold a Florida office building that he had purchased for the sum of $6.59 million. generating a 5.39 million long-term capital gain. And he claimed he didn't owe New York any taxes because he was no longer a New York resident. The New York State Division of Tax took a contrary view. They said, no, Mr. Campianello, we believe you were still a New York resident in 2007. And unfortunately, Mr. Campianello lost the domicile audit. Some of the factors the court found in ruling against Mr. Campianello was that he had spent 169 days in New York in 2007. They also noted that he frequently traveled to Italy, but they noted that his trip to Italy in 2007 began and ended in New York, which they felt was indicative that he still felt New York was his home. His primary care physician and his dentist were both in New York. He did not obtain a Florida driver's license until later, after 2007. He did not register to vote in Florida until later. There's no evidence that he ever filed a homestead declaration in Florida. He could not produce evidence that he was receiving his Social Security benefits in Florida. He could not prove that he had moved his most valuable possessions to Florida. Those included an Italian diploma, a 1988 Ferrari, and a prize guitar. Those items remained in New York and had not been moved to Florida. So based on all of these factors, the court determined that Mr. Campianello in 2007 had not yet abandoned his New York domicile and began his domicile and established a new domicile in Florida.
So he basically didn't do anything that you just talked about for the last 15 minutes, and the courts overturned it essentially.
Correct.
And probably poor planning, and his advisors not advising him on the proper strategy. It's an interesting point you bring up as well. When we think about the business owner clients that we work with. How are your entities structured? Where are they domiciled? Are you an LLC? Are you an S corp? Are you a partnership? Where are those domiciled? Because those can have impacts in your home state, even if you're conducting business or own assets in Florida. So, I think Juan is a rhetorical comment here, but obviously, if you're going to be making such a move, you're a business owner, you have lots of assets. You want to plan with your wealth advisor, your CPA, your state attorney, come up with a plan and execute on it. So that way you avoid these pitfalls, and probably, aforementioned is taxes and penalties and interest were probably associated with that litigation.
Yes, that's correct, Sam. All of this requires careful planning, and the potential damages are not just limited to the back taxes, of course. States will charge interest on unpaid tax from the original due date, and those charges obviously compound over multiple years that an audit often covers. Interest rates on unpaid state taxes can fall in the range of 5 to 11%, depending on the state and the applicable period. Penalties add another layer. There's negligence penalties, accuracy-related penalties that can range anywhere from 5 to 25% of the tax deficiency. And also there's the costs of professional representation. If you're in a domicile audit, you have to hire a tax attorney, a CPA, who specialize in state residency disputes. And in these type of audits, such as the one Mr. Campianello was involved in, professional fees can easily run into the tens of thousands of dollars.
And probably not to mention, most importantly, the stress and anxiety of going through this, through a major life event is also not fun.
Obviously, there's better ways to spend your time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's kind of maybe wrap up the technical piece of this into those benefits you mentioned, right? We'll keep picking on the Mass DOR here. So when we're thinking about our clients, like what benefits will they attain from living in a tax-free state? The first thing I think of while they're alive is the state income tax, typically on probably RMDs. A lot of our clients were high earners. They probably have pre-tax IRAs, which are going to put them in an RMD situation where they are forced to be an income taxpayer, right? So you avoid that income tax payment on the state level in Florida, which can be significant. In Massachusetts, it can range from 5 to 9%, which can be pretty significant if you have a large IRA and those RMDs increase over time. The other benefit, right, as you mentioned, is, and maybe more important for high net worth retired clients who have maybe lesser income or have tax-free income or tax efficient income, is the estate tax benefit in Florida. There is zero state level estate tax. In Massachusetts, that kicks in at about $2 million. You can scale up to 4 if you split your trust. But after that, if you're a high net worth person, you're paying in the mid to high teens, anything over that. So, I think for a lot of folks, want to let you speak to these benefits. But one thing that you should think about is if you're moving from a state that has a state tax and your trust is written to have a state tax residue trust or to capture that, you really want to work with somebody like Juan to repaper your trust, not only show that paper trail, but make sure that your trust is reflecting of the estate tax-free nature of the state you're in.
That's correct. Updating your estate planning documents becomes very important because obviously, as you've pointed out, if your documents are structured in a way that take into account a state level income tax, and you're no longer going to be subject to that state level income tax, the planning will change and in most cases become less complicated than you would otherwise need to have. So I agree with the comment that, when you are considering abandoning your current domicile, that the first thing you should do is consult with professionals, structure it in the right way so that you can avoid the problems and pitfalls that could come with a domicile audit.
Well, and there's a lot here. I mean, it seems all very attainable. I think you need to have the right people around you. You need to put a plan together and you need to execute on that, right? You need a team to help you updating your brokerage statements, your credit card bills, making sure that you have a checklist to work through, making sure you're filing your homestead. I know a lot of these things that you can help with. I really appreciate the insight here. I would suggest anybody who's thinking about relocating, reach out to us. We can get you in touch with Juan. But Juan, what's going on at FBT Gibbons? Who do you serve? Are you guys open for business? I know that state relocation is just a small piece of where you can help. I know you can help with GRATs and CRATs and CLUTs and irrevocable trusts and insurance trusts. I forgot to mention in your wonderful intro that not only are you a licensed attorney, but you also have a master's in tax. So you can help out with a wide array of subject matters. But I'll leave the floor to you. What's going on with you? Who are you working with? And what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Thank you. So the best way to get in touch with me is to give me a call. My phone number is 239-228-4871, or you can email me at jbendeck@fbtgibbons.com. You can go on the FBT Gibbons website and look up my bio if you want to find out more information for me. So we do have a very exciting practice at FBT Gibbons. FBT Gibbons is a national firm. We have offices in 26 cities, including 2 in Florida. And one of the focus areas of our firm is high net worth estate planning and family office services. And when I say family office services, we do not obviously provide any financial services, but what we do focus on is serving the needs of very wealthy families whose needs can transcend just estate planning. For example, they may have a business that they are selling, a very valuable business, and be in the need of a mergers and acquisitions attorney. Well, our family office team provides those support services to families that are in need of them. So Sam, you have, for example, a very wealthy family and they have a need for a business lawyer. Our family office team will provide the business lawyer to your very wealthy client. They need an immigration lawyer because a family member is getting married to somebody who's not currently a U.S. person. We provide the immigration lawyer who's part of our firm. There is some sort of legal dispute where a litigation attorney is needed. We bring a litigation attorney. So our family office group provides these services, and it's in addition to our high net worth group, which focuses on the things that I've traditionally been focused on, such as tax planning, estate tax planning, income tax planning for high net worth individuals.
Yeah, Juan, I think one thing that we really enjoyed working with you is you have all the resources in one place. So, you've got litigators, you've got M&A attorneys, you've got, if somebody needs a trademark, you guys can do it all. So I think that really encompasses that family office approach of surrounding the client with all these resources. Juan, thank you for being with us today. I think we've really covered a lot of the technical aspect of changing your domicile. If you have any questions or want to reach out to Juan, feel free to reach out to me directly or reach out to Juan directly. And I thank everybody for listening today, and I hope everybody has a great day.
Thanks for listening to the G360 Wealth Podcast. If today's episode gave you something to think about or act on, share it with someone who might need it. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you're always in the loop. If you want to learn more about how we help families like yours simplify and grow their wealth, visit us at generationcapitaladvisors.com. Until next time, take care and keep building. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guests and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Generation Capital Advisors. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Investment advice offered through Integrated Partners, doing business as Generation Capital Advisors, a registered investment advisor. The information in this material is for general information only and is not intended to provide specific advice or recommendation for any individual. Integrated Partners does not provide legal, tax, or mortgage advice or services. Please consult your legal or tax advisor regarding your specific situation. All investing involves risk, including loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss.